Okay, so, and just to confirm, today is January 23rd, 2026. Current time now is 10:18 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Happy Friday. I believe I did not shout out Thursday yesterday because I was looking at those videos before I came to see which episode I was on, which I'm currently on episode 6. And I realized that I did not shout out happy belated Thursday and happy Friday and happy early Saturday. It's supposed to be like a little snowstorm or something. I don't know. And child, if you was at Walmart or Kroger today, ooh, luckily you ain't have to go to that Publix. But anyway, my bad. Let me focus. So now we have entered into the second half of Rebecca's 10. I believe that's where we left off. And so we are still sort of obviously abiding by the rules and the regulations as far as coming in, not being late, doing our chores, making sure that we are being active throughout the day as far as trying to establish housing, whatever that looks like, however that looks like. I will say that the beauty about being homeless is that your journey is going to always look different than any and everyone else around you, especially if you were situated in something such as a homeless shelter. And so that was something that I realized sort of that second half of my stay at Rebecca's tent. Everyone had a backstory. We had group time. It was family style eating. And so we had so many options to bond with our fellow residents. That was such a great experience as well, because you really sort of, like I said, just get to know the people around you, obviously, because, I mean, we're here together. But we also had different exercises and things of that such, to kind of help build those relationship skills and teach us how to be vulnerable, just even in this moment of vulnerability in our lives individually. And so I met some amazing, strong women throughout my stay at Rebecca's tent. I was so honored to just be in the midst of all of these women that I met. I will admit that I was, in fact, the youngest, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember anybody else being younger than me. I didn't have any issues or anything like that. I got along with everybody that was there. And I think that that also sort of helped as well, because just maintaining a positive attitude, people just have no idea how impactful that is. And obviously, because it had such an impact on me, I dedicated the entire 2026 to positive attitude. So the theme for 2026 is the positive attitude of 2026. 2025 was the manifestation of 2025. I think we did manifestation twice, if I'm not mistaken. I tried to go back on my notes to figure out what was 2024. And I just couldn't remember what I had put. But I think it was manifestation twice, if I'm not mistaken. We had like the pursuit of, I think it was like 2022. The evolution was 2025. And then manifestation was 2024. It was 2023 that I couldn't remember. But I know the pursuit of 2022. It's probably somewhere in my notes written down, but I just can't figure out what I dedicated 2023 for. And so I just I just wanted to at least always remember to keep my head up. Like I just always wanted to remember, no matter what was going on, just keep your head up and keep a positive attitude. Because as long as I can look forward to tomorrow, then I know that we have at least a chance to continue evolving into this whatever was going on. I couldn't explain it then. And as you can see, this was 2019, 2020. And so as you can see, it took me a long time to get to this point, which is a very vulnerable point for me because, like I said, even though I am living in a homeless shelter and, Christian, he is living with my essentially my aunt, which is my mom's sister. And then my twins, Madison and Madeline, they are in Augusta with their father's parents. Seth is not born yet, obviously. He came in 2021. Koa wasn't born yet, obviously. Koa just got here back in 2025. And so I felt this becoming of me into this adulthood. I saw myself emerging into this adulthood phase. Adulthood, womanhood. Okay, womanhood, adulthood. Bridge those two together. And when I got off last night and I was, kind of like mentally trying to prepare myself for how I was going to effectively explain the second half of my stay at Rebecca's tent, because I did actually voluntarily admit myself back to the mental facility. Voluntarily. Soon as I went to go see the therapist again, I was like, can I go back over there to where I was at? Because I just started to feel myself become overwhelmed because I knew that the shelter season was coming to an end, and I didn't again know what or how that was gonna look. And so that was that second time was very interesting. Now it was very interesting because I'm gonna just say it was interesting. Let me just say that. I'm gonna just say it was interesting. I'm not gonna violate my own HIPAA laws, but I'm gonna just say it was interesting. How about that? Because, my patience was just. At some point, I just kind of got irritated. Like at some point, because you'll be getting ready to leave, you'll be getting ready to discharge, and things of that such, and so you have to kind of like figure out what and how that is going to look. And so we made it. Let's just say we made it. And so we started to hear about this C-19 thing, and it just kind of shifted everything. Because again, like I said, we were coming up towards the end of the shelter season. But before we get there, like I said, I was pondering last night. I was just trying to figure out, like, okay, what's the angle? How do I want to sort of figure it out? Obviously, I don't have a script here. It's all freestyle. I don't think that a script would do me any justice. And I like to exercise my memory. I just couldn't figure out how I got to that point. Like, how I had got to that point. Okay, we got evicted. That happens. And so I go to my mom's, and like I said, it was such a whirlwind because it just kind of felt like fifth grade, sixth grade all over again. Just having flashbacks of, just the same crap that I had to deal with fifth grade and, sixth grade. Just staying up all night, drinking, playing music, quote unquote, trying to praise the Lord, keeping people up. I'm sleeping on the floor in your living room, and she's walking in the house, talking loud, like being all boisterous and, talking down on you and talking bad about you and stuff like that. And for the life of me, I can't figure out how she got to the point to whereas she needed to go to the courts, and so I just couldn't quite understand, like, kicking people when they're down. And so then it was going to get Christian. And, the negative comments and people putting their hands on you and stuff like that. And I'm like, kicking people while they're down. And then the twins' father, Ernest, he's trying to file paperwork in the courts, lying to the courts, like just unnecessary drama, kicking people while they're down. And I just remember Jaguar Wright. She did an interview with Tasha K. And Tasha K was like, "You're not afraid of burning bridges with people?" And I just remember her vividly and so calmly and boldly stating, why would I be worried about burning bridges with people when God taught me how to swim? And when I tell you the light bulb just kind of went off, I realized, oh, that was God teaching me how to swim, becoming an adult, becoming a woman. And so I had to take that and I had to understand that and I had to allow that to manifest into where I am now. Because like I said, for the life of me, I just couldn't understand. I couldn't fathom it. I really couldn't fathom it. How, I would prefer for you to be in a homeless shelter than to sleep on my floor. I couldn't, it didn't register. It didn't register. And I accepted it. I accepted that because I know that my life and my destiny is obviously different than what other people would prefer for it to be and what it looks like through their eyes. And so I kept my head up, and most importantly, I kept my faith because it was so difficult to hold on to it every day. So difficult to hold on to it every single day, knowing that, okay, well, this isn't permanent, this is temporary, and so you're gonna have to figure it out, figure it out, figure it out. And there was this flyer. I don't know who put this flyer. We had like this bulletin board, and it would just be flyers of events, information, resources, things of that such. And I remember there was this flyer on the bulletin board, and I was walking out that morning, getting ready to leave, and I saw it, and I couldn't write the information down, so I just took a picture of it. And you know how you'll have to get back to it, and my memory was, what about that number that you took later on in the day? Around the time when I knew like they would be open and stuff. Obviously, I'm not gonna call them at 7 o'clock in the morning. But around 10 or 11, I was like, I tried to remind myself, like, hey, you need to call that number. It was, I can't think of the name. It was an organization that assisted people with their housing application. Like I said, I don't know who put the flyer up there. And it was only by the grace of God that I didn't allow myself to forget. But I know somewhere Chantrice is out there. And when I tell you, I owe her a huge thank you, and she knows that. But when I tell you that Chantrice was working overtime, she went above and beyond to help me. And I appreciate when you tell people your story and it hit them. And that heart-to-heart moment is so impactful that they'll do anything to help you. And that was what that moment felt like when I reached out to this company. And, just inquiring, hey, I saw a flyer. I was just trying to see what exactly do you guys do and things of that such. And I remember when I made the appointment, I can't even remember if it was that same day or was that next day. It probably was the next day because I remember having to go to my storage unit to gather all my documents, the birth certificate, the social securities, because I'm leaving that in the storage unit. I'm obviously not taking it with me or anything like that. As long as it can stay in the storage unit, I know I can always access it to get it when I need it. And so I never lost faith. I knew that all I needed was just to keep the faith. And I knew that it would eventually turn out the way that God had already planned for it to. But I just knew that mentally I had to stay strong throughout this entire process, because I had no idea what an adult looked like. I had no idea that, you had to understand finances. You had to understand like emotional regulation, emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence, psychological intelligence. There was so much that I had to learn. There were so many different parts and branches and avenues that I had to always know how to compartmentalize, so that way I can be an efficient individual, an efficient human. And so I just want to thank Chantrice, because she got it. She understood it. And there's not that many people that you could tell your story to, and it affects them, because a lot of people have never experienced homelessness before. And so having to endure that was very traumatizing, I have to admit. Because you got to understand, I have family here. So there was no reason for me to have to succumb to being in a homeless shelter. But I thank God that He loved me enough to take me through it, because I wouldn't be here where I am now. I wouldn't be as strong as I am now. And essentially, I wouldn't have been able to grow up and mature and become an adult and become an active member of society, essentially. But it was so hurtful to see people treat you such a way, and see people kick you while you're down. It really hurt. It really did. And it took a long time for me to, forgive myself, and also forgive other people for how they treated me, because, people always want to, that's what you get. But you just have no idea people's true intentions until you've got to your lowest. And that was such an eye-opening for me, because now people, why I act the way I act now, and why I don't associate myself with people, family, is because no, no thank you. I would prefer not. And I'm okay with that. Like, I've accepted that about myself, and I've accepted that about life. You know what? It's okay. No, thank you. I'll pass. I don't need your relationship now, because when I needed it, you were mean to me. You were saying nasty things to me about me. And, you were putting your hands on me. And so, no, I'm okay. I'll pass. But I appreciate the fact that me and God got us to this point. God got me here to this point. And I trusted God enough to get me to this point. And I'm so thankful that I decided to create this series because I knew how much healing that it was going to create. And so thank you. I know I
Suddenly need advice from a